All right. So from our last class, I think we started the journey of data cleaning. Then so far, so good. I know we have covered a few of these operations. Can somebody recap the ones we have done so far? Let me just say them so that I don't repeat them. Everything we did was still on the how to clean up value under columns, right? How to clean up value. So let's just continue with that. This data we're using was it this healthcare data we're using? Okay, so let me just continue with that. So let's quickly switch back to our Power BI query through home and then selecting transform data. All right, so let's see if we still have some of the column cleaning operations. So these are, let me return all the changes made in that class to allow us access the complete data. All right. I know I've taught us how to delete column from a given data frame, right? We have also done, please come on to close down. Noise is taking me. We have done how to change data type. We have done how to delete some selected column, right? So let me see what we have here. We have done how to split column, and then what about how to remove error? So some of these things they are self-explanatory with the knowledge of the ones we have discussed so far. So let me just, how to remove duplicates. Have we done that? We have not. So let's start with that. Right. How to remove duplicate. It's very important. We don't accommodate duplicates in data analysis. It's very dangerous because it definitely leads to erroneous statistics. So let's assume we want to check for duplicates in this column. So all we need to do is to right click on it, right click on the column you want to remove the duplicate from, then select remove duplicates. So if we have any duplicates, they will have been removed. So the fastest way you can know if you actually remove the duplicates is before you apply these commands, try and observe the total number of rows you have, which you can get here. So after you have applied the command, you check again. So if there is reduction, it means that what there was duplicate. If there is no reduction, it means there was no duplicate before the application of this. So right now I have 78 rows. So let me return it and see if I will have more than that. So you can see it definitely. There were a lot of what duplicates, repeated values. But this is not what we can actually see as a challenge. You know why? Because the duplicate only occur under what? One column. That does not mean that the data is corrupt. Where we should be thinking of having issue is what you have under each of the column. Let's say, for example, now we have Bobby Jackson and then 30 here, and then you now have this same record repeated across all the rows or the columns. That is when it should be an issue. But at least that one we apply just for us to confirm how to deploy the function. Now, another thing I want us to look at, I just want to make sure that I've settled all the function for data cleaning. It is not everything you have under this data for data cleaning. Some of them are for analysis. So I'm trying to identify the ones that are in the field of cleaning. Okay, so let's assume for now, we have looked at the major data cleaning that involve column. Now, let's quickly look at rows, right? Rows data cleaning operations. Rows data cleaning operation in Power BI. Rows data cleaning operation in Power BI. So there are still a lot of cleanup that can be performed based on the rules. That is your record this time around, not focusing on the attributes. So for example, this data we are working with, let's assume that we are asked to delete a particular record, like this record at row 9, if it happened to be an error. So how do I remove it? So we go to, we are still under what? Home tab. And then you come to this row section, just like the way we have two column sets of data cleaning function. Same we have for rows. So let me start with this first category that says keep rows. Let me just explain the set of functions under keep rows. So we can now start taking them one after the other. The first one here is keep top row. Let's start with that. Under the category of rows data cleaning operation, we are starting with the first one, which is keep row, under which we have the first one. Now, let's assume we want to keep certain rows or certain record. So this is somehow related to some of the things we did under column. So once you click here, it will prompt you a dialog box. I want us to observe that application. I'll give us time to apply. Please, let's focus as we. So from keep top rows, who can interpret this grammar? Because sometimes most of these grammars are not straightforward. You have to decode them. And the brief explanation here says, specify how many rows to what? To keep. So if out of this entire data frame, I want to keep some row. Remember the link we follow, top, not bottom. So if you specify 20, what set of record are you referencing? The first 20 words are the top. They are the ones you want to keep. So if I select, if I enter like 20 and click on OK, then you see that what? It only kept what? the first top what 20 record. So that is one of the function under row category. So I'm going back again. The second one says what? Keep bottom rows, so which is directly opposite of what we did. So let's assume that in the data set you are given, you are asked to retain only the what? The bottom, or let's say the 20 what? Bottom record. So that is when, let's assume I want to retain the 20 bottom records from the bottom. This is what you have. You just pay attention. Let me just play around there. I'll give us time to also walk around them. I just want us to observe so that you understand it. So the next one is keep range of rows. Now you are going to specify from where to what? Where. Let's assume that in this record, you want to keep from number 10 to number 40, which is not the first, neither was the bottom. So it just like the first two options can only match some scenario, but there are a kind of deletion of rows that the first two might not be able to handle based on the selected range. So if I click here now to give us what? Two cells. So where the first one is for us to impute, always look at the description, specify the range of what? Rows to keep. So if I say, for example, the first one should be from row 6 and then to row 40. Don't know if I have more than that. So which means that it will keep from row 6 to what? Row 40. So that is the function of that command. So still on keep rows category. So we have keep what? Duplicates, which means that it will only what? It will only keep a record where you have what? Duplicates. So if I click here now, let's see what happened. So these are the duplicates. Do we notice any difference? Let's check it. So the duplicates are actually what? Much. The duplicates are actually much. It's not clear now. Okay, so let me return it. Take note of the column and the row, and let me return and see if there will be any changes. Is there anything changed? So which means that what? There is no duplicate. Forget about that the other time we saw a duplicate because we are working with what? A particular column. Remember what I said, that Python Power BI will see as duplicates. If what you have under column, let's say for example now, what you have, something has changed, the column title has changed. Is this how it has been since? And I have returned all the changes. Okay, so, oh, that time that we did remove top or keep top 10 or top 20 must have affected it. Anyway, if I'm leaving here, I will specify it should not implement the changes. Okay, so let's quickly look at this category, the ones that are under remove rows. We have remove what? Top rows. Now, mind you, outside coming to this direct function, you can actually select a couple of words, rows, just like this. And you can right click and select delete row. So that is, you want to remove the whole of that row. But let me see, consider this. So we have remove top rows, we have remove bottom rows, we have remove alternate rows, we have remove duplicate, we have remove blank rows. I think this one at some point might be very necessary because there can be a record or a data set given to you where there are some rows that are blank. So instead of you retaining them, you can just clear them by clicking. So if we have such, it will have deleted it. So if there are also some rules where some errors are perceived, you can also remove them as well. Then let's remove alternate row. Then it will bring you a dialog box where you specify your alternate what row. Now specify the pattern of rows to remove and keep. So the first row to remove. So let's say we are removing row 5 or row 3. Number of rows to remove. Where you're going to start from, I can say, okay, we should remove 5. Numbers of rows to keep. So this one is a bit logical because until you do exact calculation, you may not get the required results. So if I click, so that has also the method. Let me delete all this and see if I have. So we have remove duplicates. Let me see if anything will happen. So there's no duplicates. Nothing was removed. We have removed the same thing, just like the one of the other one that keep top. Now you want to remove top rows. You specify, let's say I want to remove the top 10 rows. Then the same thing, remove bottom rows. You want to remove probably 20 bottom rows. So almost the same thing. So let me give us time to play around them quickly before we switch from here to the main analysis. We should be able to start analysis today because we cannot spend the whole 2 hours on data cleaning because we have already started it. So the main cleaning that are required, I have already touched them. So let me just give us a few minutes to play around them before we switch to a new topic. You can play around them now. So let me exit from here. Okay, so let's start the analysis proper. Now we assume that our data is perfected now. We want to begin to draw some insights that can be used for decision making. Right, application of Power BI visualization. Application of Power BI visualization. In designing analysis dashboard. In designing analysis dashboard. Application of Power BI visualizations. In designing analysis dashboard. So the focus here is we want to create an analysis what? Dashboard. So who can remind us again, what is a dashboard? Can anybody remind us what is a dashboard? Sakel, we want to say something. Go ahead. Yeah. Is it just one? Multiple words? Good. Now, remember that we loaded this data set here because we want to draw what? Insights from them. And these insights need to be presented with models. What are the models we are going to use to present our findings? They are called what? Visualization, which I have explained. So which means that I want to start teaching us how to present your insights, how to create reports using this model called visualization. Now, I'm going to be picking them one after the other. Once we are through with learning how to use all these visuals to present or to draw insights from our data sets, then we can say we are through with Power BI. Because what is more important is that your ability to use all these visuals. That is why we said that the strengths or the advantage of Power BI is that it has more of what? Visualization features. So I'm going to start with this. I'm going to cover this today, this and this. I have my reason why I am going this way. So let's start with the first one, which is what? Data visualization with table model. Because these are the features we are going to use to formulate the reports, which we will end up describing as our analysis dashboard. Table what? Visualization. Right. Power BI table. Power BI table is a two-dimensional model. Is a two-dimensional model which is used to present reports or findings in columns and rows. In column and row. Now, I have explained before now that when you are presenting categorical data, table might be the best option. But when you want to identify patterns, trends, outlier easily, table might not be what? The best option. That time you will be needing all these ones, all these graphical model, instead of table or the matrix. So let's look at the application steps on how to deploy this model. One, identify your analysis questions. Identify your analysis question. So which means that we ought to have studied our data before deploying any of these models. Identify your analysis questions. So let's construct some questions together. So let's say I'm using this salary payroll. So I want us to write down this question, and then you will see how I'm going to answer this question with the tabular model. So the first question, easy. The first question is summarize basic salary per department. So that is one of the analysis questions I want to answer with the tabular model. Summarize basic salary per what? Departments. So remember, I gave us an advice in our last class that when you want to draft your question, I said you should always use what? This table view, so that you can see your pictures values. But in this case, I assume that we must have studied that. I don't want to waste my time because I know this is one data set we have been working with, so we all understood data structure. Now, the second question is Analyze the total number. Hope you are writing them down. Analyze the total numbers of employees in the payroll per department. Analyze the total numbers of employees. Analyze the total number of employees. The total number of employees in the payroll data sets. Total number of employees in the payroll data sets. Now, I strategically constructed those questions because my intention is to show us how to analyze with different functions. If you look at that first question, we are going to use summation function, right? Because the question says what? We are summing. But the second question, we are going to use count what? Function. So I also want to look at another question that will involve average. So let's write down that also. What is the total average of net salary based on grades? What is the total average of net salary per grade? So let me start all these questions. I am going to answer them with what? Which model are we looking at now? Table what? Model or table what? Visual. So let's write the steps now. Steps 1. Select the table visual. Select the table visual. Don't forget that you should be on your report view, not data view, before modeling your data. So now I want us to look. So nobody should operate, just write your step. I'll give us time to do the same thing. So I'll just click on it. So the moment you click on the visual or the model, you can see a frame here. Make sure you pay more attention. Nobody should apply yet. So this is the model what? Structure. The reason why we are not seeing currently, the model is not analyzing any what? Data. Why? Because we have not populated with what? Value to present. So this is just like an empty container, an empty frame, waiting to receive data. Now, for you to know the data involved out of all these headers, you have to look at the question. So if I'm asking the first question that says I should do what? I should summarize what? Basic salary per what? Department. So I have two variables that are mentioned in that question, which is what? Basic salary and what? Department. Now, out of the two variables that are mentioned, one is string, the other one is what? Integers or floating number. Or let's say one is string, one is number, right? Now, it is now left for you to know how you are going to manipulate, how you are going to display the value, the analysis that will be derived from those two variables. So always start from selecting what? The string header. So let me show us a method. While answering the second question, I will show us another method. So the first method is you drag this particular header, which is department, and put it under what? Column header here. So once you drop it here, it will analyze it automatically on that visual. So what it's doing right now is synchronizing the unique value under that header that you drop in that. Can you see it? So the analysis it has provided now is that under this column, if we are to go to the data set, there are what? How many unique values? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So which means that you want to summarize the values under basic salary
against what? This unique value. At the same time, this type of value are referred to as what? Categorical what? Value or classified what? Values. So the next thing I'm going to do is to drag. You don't need to, if you drag this, I'll put it here. So I can still drag it, basic salary. And then when I bring it here, you can see that blue selection. I don't know whether you are seeing it, right? Which means that what is coming after what? Department. So you click. So it will now analyze what? The value against those initial what? Listed unique value under department. So what you have right now is what? The summary of basic salary, the total basic salary per what? Unique what? Department. So I've answered the first question. So right now, I am not involving any form of transformation, which is what? Formatting, to make the values of your report visible and what? Readable. That is a topic on its own, which is called what? Power BI what? Report formatting. So what I am focusing on right now is how I can use the table visual to present what? My findings or my reports. So this is one. Now, remember I mentioned something in the past that it is advisable or it is professional that you don't depend on only what? Tabular what? Presentation. Always back it up with what? Graphical what? Model, so that you can easily identify the trend, patterns, and outliers. So this same report that I have presented with my table, I want to simply duplicate it. Now watch me, because you are going to do everything for me once I'm done with my own parts. So in other words, how do I duplicate my report so that I can present it with another visual? Because right now I am considering this tabular visual to be more complicated when it comes to identifying what pattern. I have to start comparing this value with this value before I can know whether what audit has what highest what total basic salary than what compliance. So that is what I'm going to be doing, instead of me just looking at the report and finding out which one is the what the highest. So to help me to identify my trend, I'll simply select the frame, not any of the value. If you click on the value, it means you are doing what we call slicing. If you remember, we use slicer in what? Excel. So which means that you are filtering. So you don't select any of this value. So you click on the frame, and then you go to make sure you are on the frame, then click on what? Copy. Then once you have selected copy, click on paste. So which means that what? You have automatically what? Pasted the tabular what? Visual. So my intention is not to have two of it. My intention is to switch this one to any of this what? Graphical what? Model. So I will just click here, and that will automatically what? Convert it to what? A graph. So with this now, I can see that operation is doing better, right? Without me taking time to compare the value. Followed by what? It has even sorted the what? The values. So you don't have to start involving sorting here. So this is the end of the first question. Let's go to the second question. What the second question says. Good. Now, mind you, this is a dashboard. When I was describing this application, there are two keywords that I use. Can anybody remind me? Interactive and what? Dynamic, right? And I told us then that what makes a dashboard to be interactive is when report 1 is what? Linked to what? Record 2. So in this case now, if we are asked that is this report connected to this? Yes, it is. But I want to do something. for your report to be interactive, you need to also be mindful of the design, because we need to also consider what? US or UI here. That's what your report, your dashboard must be user what? Friendly, and must give user what? Good experience. I told us the other time that with this application, you can, analyze data what? Live. And somebody can be viewing it with what? Mobile what? Phone. So which means that what? We need to consider what? We need to prioritize user interface. So that is why I shifted this down, because I need to give a kind of description to this dashboard, so that when somebody gets here, the person will know what kind of analysis or what is this dashboard representing. And that will automatically take us to how I can write with my test box. So to write with your test box, just go to Insert. From Insert, you can create a button. We are going to get to all that, whereby somebody can click here and jump to another word, report in another word, a dashboard. But for now, let's just focus on the test box. So once I click on test box, it will automatically activate what? Formatting feature, which are the same with Microsoft Word. So now let me type, what is this? This is analysis dashboard. That is what we are designing right now, because when you go for an interview, the first question they might ask you, you claim you know how to use Power BI, they will start by asking you, can you use Power BI to design analysis dashboard? And that is what I'm doing right now, because a dashboard is a single interface that assembles multiple findings. So now I want to format it to make it more readable and presentable. Format, or you can just click and press Ctrl A, and then you can bold it here. You can increase the size here. Now, once you increase the size and it exceeds the frame, because initially I reduced it, so you can expand it back, and then you can move it from the edge. Remember, this is where I am bringing it to. So click outside, click and drag. Try and drag it from the edge. So I'll put it here. I think that size is too much, except I want to shift, want to change the handwriting. You can do that. Let me peg it at, what was it before? 36, right? Let me put it at this. So you can explore more features and probably what? More command if you want here. So let's see whether we can have more of them. So let's quickly answer the second question. What is the second question? So that we actually involve what? Another Power BI what? DAF function. Now remember, we mentioned something the other time, that there are three key pillars, right? That makes up this application. The Power BI query, right? The one that helps us to load data from different sources and also transform them. Then the Power BI what? View, which is what? This one here, that gives us access to three basic what? View, the report view, the data view, and what? The model view. And then, and the DAS. Remember I said the DAS is a programming language, or is a data language that Power BI uses to write, to develop what? Function. We use a function. So Power BI use summation function to summarize what? Audit. And now we want to also involve it to use another function called count function to give us another what? Analysis. So at the end, there are some inbuilt functions, like this one we use now. It has already built in, and that is why we just use it. But in between, there are some analysis that we want to do that none of this inbuilt function structure can handle. That is where we will now start working with measures, which I described the other time as pieces of what? Calculators that you can build just because the follow com function cannot handle a particular word analysis you want to carry out. So it will not lead you to, okay, let me learn this Dash language so that when I cannot use the inbuilt function, I can use that same language to develop one for myself. So using the same table, I'll click again to activate another frame, then arrange it. Let me bring it here. Then the same question, or what was the question? Somebody should assist me with the question again. Analyze what? Total number of what? Employees based on what? I know it's not department, right? It is based on what? Okay, the whole data set based on what? No, that is not it. That means you did not get the question right. Based on what? Based on grade. I mentioned grade now, was it not this? So no, we must start it towards maybe it's the same. Okay, that should be the same department. Yes, let it be department so that it will assist you to what? To have more insight about what? The first analysis. So we can correct it now per department. So if it is per department, then I will activate. Remember I said I'm going to show us another method. If you don't want to use the method of dragging them and bringing them here, the fastest way is that once you have ensured that you are on that particular framework by selecting it like this, you don't need to tell Powerbi that put this one here, put this one there. Once you start by selecting this, it knows where to assign it. And then you go and select the next variable or the next heading, which is what? Basic salary, right? So let's say we are working with this. You have question. What is your question? No. Let's go. Please don't let me go to advanced. I'm taking it step by step. We will get to that aspect. We can actually go multiple, can use multiple criteria. Like we were using some ifs. So now now you can see that by default, it gave me the analysis with what? Sum function. So it is now left for me to switch from sum to what? Count. And how do I do that? This is where you can see that it assigned them by itself, just like we did the other time. So you need to know which of this header or this feature has the value that it counted. Which what? See the count work with what? Integer. So you right click on this, and then you will notice that what is checked what? Sum. So you switch from sum to what? Count function. We have the count here. You click on it. So it will switch the analysis based on what? That particular function. Then, like I said, you can also back it up with what? The graphical what? Visual. Now, if I don't want to duplicate, just because I want to create exactly a report, but with another visual of what this one is saying, I can just click on that visual. So you need to learn how to mix them up. Remember that you have used what? Clustered here. Use like pie chart here so that you have a way of designing your dashboard instead of using one graphical visual. So now I will just choose something like, let me choose this. So it will also give me an empty, okay, focus. It will also give me an empty model waiting to receive data. So I will select the same variable that I selected so that it will give me what? The same what? Information presented here. So I'll start with the department and then followed by the basic salary. So let me answer the final one, which is the one that I have to do with average, right? The one that have to do with average. So I just say. So the one I have to do with average That will now take us, okay, we are still using table, so I want us to do the same. By the time I ask you to do your classwork, everything you are going to present should be, your root report should be with the table, which is the visual that I'm focusing on at the moment. Let me just wait for the update to complete. All right. So I'll go for the table visual again. So let me put it here. What is the question again? I think this question is about grade and the total average of net salary. So let me go to net salary. Net salary. So I'll pick what? Grade first. And then pick net salary. So now, just to beautify my design, my dashboard, you can see the way I am mindful of the arrangement of the report. I will use the duplication method. Click here. Go back to your home. Copy and paste. So I will make sure that this graph is bigger than the rest in order to form a design here. So let me use this one, the same cluster, but a vertical one. So you have to still consider whether this one will form a better design than this, or whether you have to switch back to it. So you need to be considering all these factors. So I will increase this one because let's say I don't have another question to answer. So the idea is that let it fill the whole of that space. I don't want to have too many open spaces. So this space will be used for my slicer later. What I will use to regulate what? Or to filter across all the report. So I will stop here for us to give me exactly something like this, or even better than this. All right, so let me name this particular, because we will resume with this dashboard in our next class. So let me name this one. You just double click here. Name this one -1, maybe dashboard 1. So create another page, and then we are focusing on another visual now. So the same report, but we will use another visual. So let's look at matrix visual, right? How to analyze data with matrix visual. How to analyze data with matrix visual. Data with matrix visual. So matrix visual is another two-dimensional model. It's another two-dimensional model which can also be used to present findings or reports in column and rows. In column and row, which can also be used to represent findings in columns and row. So most time you can actually alternate them. So it's not less for you whether you want to use table or you want to use what? Matrix. If you look at their symbol, they are almost the same. You look at their symbol, they are almost the same. So now, let's answer those same questions since we are still using the same data sets so that your assignment will be on a different data set. Like I said, make sure that you save this dashboard because our next class, I will just focus on report formatting. So I will just call back this and start formatting it instead of starting afresh. So let me quickly name this one as dashboard 2. So if we are asking the same set of questions, so all we need is just to click on it also, if you are writing yourself, to select the matrix visual. That's your first step. Now has to start analyzing. Select, you're writing your step now. Select the matrix visual. So if we are answering that first question, which says what? Summarize. Okay, so I will just click on this against basic salary. So like we did the other time, let me not waste our time labeling, but your own make sure that you also give the title. So let me also duplicate it and get a pictorial copy of it as well. But this time around, I'm going to use different graphs instead of the ones I use. So let me use this scatter plots. Now, it is not about using this graph. It's about the one you can easily what? Interpret. So, and I would like to have different design from the previous one. So have the table here. So after our formatting in the next class, all this value will expand and fill up this space. I'm trying to form a good shape. So I just want probably this dashboard to just answer 2 questions. So the next question I'm going to answer here is summarizing the same basic salary based on gender, so that we just have just 2, looking at the space remaining here. So I'll click on that same matrix visual. So I'm summarizing gender based on the same basic salary. I just need a very small report because of the space that is available. Then I will also project its graphical representation. Let me also copy and then paste. So which graph will I look for now? Let me use, I've used this one. No, all these are special. This one, have you? Okay, donuts, right? So remember what I said, you have to form a design, your placement. You have to make sure that the arrangement is good. Maybe I have to reduce this. Probably I'll put my slicer here when we get to aspects of slicing. Right, so I want to also give me this, and then we will stop there. So your assignment is to get a different data set, maybe that Yargon data. Yes, that Yargon data, or a better data set that you have, and make sure that you have two different reports like this dashboard without formatting them. So our next class, we shall be focusing on dashboard formatting. So I will make all these value more visible and more readable.